Welcome to the Big Success Show. Today, 13 things that make us feel lucky. Brought to you by FinancialFreedomTool.com. Plenty of money for life.
Big Success with the Professor and Mary-Lynn.
Well, Mary-Lynn, you know, some people say that the number 13 is unlucky. But, you know, we have a different attitude about it. We think that it's a very lucky number.
Why is that, George?
Well, the reason for that is because it relates to Big Success's anniversary. This week, we're celebrating the 13th anniversary of Big Success.
Well, that is lucky. And that's big news.
That's big with two G's even.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm George Kruger, a.k.a. the Professor.
And I'm Mary-Lynn. And, boy, we've come a long way since our start way back in 2007.
My goodness. It seems like only yesterday, and it seems like a lifetime, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And there is a lot to celebrate, and there is a lot that we feel lucky about. And so that's why today we're going to share 13 things that make us feel lucky. Right after this word from our sponsor, FinancialFreedomTool.com. Plenty of money for life.
Looking for money to start your business? The Financial Freedom Tool helps you uncover money hidden in your budget so you can start your business sooner than you think. Learn more at FinancialFreedomTool.com. That's FinancialFreedomTool.com.
Today we're celebrating our 13th anniversary of Big Success. How about that?
Yeah, balloons are dropping, or confetti's dropping, balloons are rising. I'm sorry, I'm getting it all backwards.
All kinds of stuff is going on. And, you know, as you said, Professor, some people say the number 13 is unlucky.
Yes, they do.
But we think it's very lucky. And so lucky that we're going to share 13 things that make us feel lucky with this opportunity of being able to have big success for 13 years. Number one, we feel lucky that we get to work together. Some people may say that that's unlucky.
Yeah, I think I've heard you say that a few times, Mary-Lynn.
No. But man, what a blessing. How awesome is it that we get to, that we get to be partners in business and life.
And I think so many people, you're absolutely right. One of the most frequent questions we get is, how do you work together? Right. Yeah. And I will say that for the most part, you've talked to me like no other partner has ever talked to me. I will grant you that. But it's just sheer and utter joy. It's just such a wonderful thing to get to work with the one you love.
It is. And it is tough. And there's been some personal growth on learning on how to communicate with each other.
Yes.
I think sometimes when you communicate about business, there tends to be, on my end, sometimes a bit of an urgency. And sometimes when you're making big decisions, big with two G's, yes, decisions, it can also be scary. And so learning how to communicate with one another has been an interesting journey. And yes, I think it's made us better partners all around because of it.
And I think, and we're still learning about this, but I think it really, we have to be good at work-life balance, whether we think we are or not.
Right.
And so learning that, and I think a lot of people are going through this as the digital age has made us more and more kind of connected with work all the time. We've certainly lived that, Mary-Lynn, as well.
Yeah, that's true. And going for walks has been key for helping us with balance. Mm-hmm. Getting out in nature, that really allows us to be able to relax and enjoy time with each other.
Yeah, it's just awesome
not
to
talk about work.
Escape to the country, where you get to commune with nature.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, so the second thing we feel lucky about is for family and friends who have supported us. They've been there since the beginning.
Yeah, and I mean, at the beginning, it was just them. I mean, there was nobody listening to our podcast, I think, except for my sister. I'm not even sure all my sisters listen, but, we had a select set of people who were just encouraging us. And I mean, I'm talking about, you can count them on one hand, the number of people who were listening in the early stages. And frankly, we weren't even letting people know we were live yet, that we had opened yet, because we wanted to get some shows under the belt because we were worried maybe we wouldn't sound so good at first.
Right. Well, thank God for them. And thank you for being that handful of people at the start, because that gave us enough motivation to keep going, and we're very appreciative. But our family and our friends who were there from the beginning remain loyal to this day.
Yes.
And we're forever grateful. The third thing that makes us feel lucky is that we have met just a ton of big thinkers along the way who've helped us grow.
Yeah, Chris Brogan is a great example. And I remember, Mary-Lynn, we were followers of Chris Brogan's before we even launched Big Success.
Yeah, he when we first met him, he was just known as this big, amazing blogger who had this ability to really draw a huge community. And since then, I mean, he's become a best-selling author, and he's a sought-after business advisor at Fortune 500 companies and beyond.
He's just a wonderful person, and just a person who has always helped us kind of see where that next step is. And, you know, I still remember, though, the first time we met Chris, because we were at a conference. It was, I think, like the second ever in the history of the world podcasters conference or something like that. And, you know, there was Chris, and Chris was the reason we were there, because I remember one night we were sitting at our desk working pretty late at night, and I just read Chris's blog post, and he was talking about this upcoming conference. I remember looking over at you, Mary-Lynn, and saying, we need to go to this conference. Yeah. And so we did. And so we didn't have a podcast, this was a podcasters conference.
Right. We had just launched the brand.
We were just launching the brand.
We showed up at this podcasting convention with no idea how to set up a website, how to start and launch a podcast. But we at least had business cards. We had a name. Yes. We had a domain.
Our one asset, a business card, right? Yeah. So we handed the business card to Chris, and I remember we told our graphic designer we want big, so big that it's almost like running off the card.
Right.
And Chris looked at our card and he said, "Oh, big, so big it's running off the card." That's like, he got it immediately, which was phenomenal. Right. But it just, you know, he's been so encouraging in the early days, especially. We thank him so much. We've learned so much from him.
Yeah, and he continues to encourage us, so thank you. And Carol Roth is another person that is a big thinker. She's a best-selling author, billion-dollar deal maker, entrepreneur, and media personality. And again, another person that we met at a conference.
Exactly, the SobCon conference, which Successful Outstanding Blogger or Successful Online Business, as it evolved to. I think we'll talk more about this here in just a bit, but Carol's one of those people. I remember just asking her, because she's in Chicago, so close to us. We're in Champaign, about a 2-hour drive.
She was one of the presenters at the conference. So
yes, that year she wasn't, because she still was kind of just early in the stage.
Oh, okay.
The next year she certainly was, but I asked her to come talk to my class, and she willingly did it. And then she actually came down another time to work with a group of students who she recruited the day that she talked to my class. And the cool thing was, we went and celebrated at a luncheon with her and this group of kids. We popped in to see her. Yeah. And right when we popped in, she was getting notice that her book was on the New York Times bestsellers list.
Right.
So that was really fun.
Equation. So yes. that was cool to be there at that very moment. Yeah. And what a great experience for some of your students at the University of Illinois to be able to work with an entrepreneur like that and just kind of see, learn the ropes. Yep. And that's what Carol's all about. She really loves to help people and other business people and other entrepreneurs thrive. And so we've appreciated the words of wisdom that she's shared with us. Jim Bouchard is another big thinker.
Yes.
What doesn't Jim do? He's a musician. He's in the Martial Arts Hall of Fame.
He was a football player.
An author, a podcaster, a video guru, a leadership guru. I don't know what he doesn't do. He's run for political office. Yes. I mean, he's one of these guys who does everything well. And we met Jim early on there was a directory for podcasters. I can't even remember what it was called now, but that's where we communicated with. Yeah. Something like that.
He and Alex's wife, I mean, they became people who we would consider good friends. I mean, not just an acquaintance, but good friends. And we never met. Right. We never met, you know. It
was probably, 10, 12 years later that we met them both in Chicago. And what a blast that night was. So it could have just, I think we stayed up pretty late talking and just having so much fun. And anyway, and so we're in each other's corners all the time. And it's just so neat to have another entrepreneurial couple to be able to chat with and, you know, because they get it. Yes. So anyway.
My favorite quote of Jim's is, "Get knocked down 7, get up 8.
Yes. And that's definitely a great bit of advice for anybody who wants to go into business. So Liz Strauss is another person that is another big thinker that we've met along the way. Now, she was a business strategist, keynote speaker, author, and the CEO and founder of the bloggers conference that George, you mentioned earlier.
Yep. And that's where we met Liz. Chris Brogan had suggested that we connect with her, and she was only a couple hours away in Chicago. So we met Liz, and Liz was one of the biggest thinkers. I say was because she's now passed on, unfortunately. But Liz was one of the biggest thinkers I've ever seen, and we hired her to be our coach for a while, and she just had that ability to really cut through all of the crap and get you into that zone where you can really get something done.
Yeah. So we're forever grateful because that she was part of our growth early on in helping us define who we were and set our direction.
And I'll just add one more thing, Liz. I'm a capitalist. I'm a money guy, but I think Liz and Chris, both of them had a real an effect on me in the sense that they're not mutually exclusive. And that the best, and I think I always tell my students now, business is a social science. It's supposed to be all about people and making people's lives better. And a lot of that came from Liz and Chris.
And we've got one more on the list here. Honestly, we could go on and on. There's so many people, but one more person that we have to mention.
He is last, but certainly first.
Yes. Well,
in terms of just helping us and how long he's been with us.
Right. And he is the third person on our team, Kipper McGee. Kipper is America's digital branding coach. He's a media strategist, advisor, speaker, and author. And I first connected with Kipper back in 2005 when he was the director of news and programming at WLS 890 AM in Chicago. And Kipper has managed some of the most famous radio stations in the country. He's worked with some of the top radio talents, and I was working in radio broadcasting at the time, and a colleague introduced me to Kipper. And thanks to Kipper, I was able to do some work on WLS. I mean, I have a big smile on my face right now. Definitely one of the highlights of my radio broadcasting career. But a few years later, Kipper shifted to consulting with Fortune 500 companies, internet startups, and broadcast entities. And so I thought, I've always thought that Kipper should meet George. and so I reached out, and, that first meeting went well. Kipper didn't.
Why do you seem so surprised, Mary-Lynn? Come on.
and anyway, so yes, we approached Kipper, and he hasn't left our side ever since.
Yeah. And I just remember one quick little story about Kipper, Mary-Lynn, is in the radio world, you get sound checks or whatever they call them. You get your reviews, right?
Well, you would sit down with the program director. So I would sit down with Kipper, and he would critique the show. So he would play you on the air.
Yes.
And then stop the tape and say, okay, here's what you should have done, or here's what you did right, or here's what you didn't do.
Yes.
Well, and so, those are called air checks.
That's right. Air checks, not
Right,
sound
right.
checks. Well, at a certain point early in our life of coaching with Kipper,
Our podcast got air checked.
Yes, our podcast got air checked. And I remember Kipper saying, "May I make an observation?" And we knew something was coming. And so Mary and I both looked at each other. And then the next words out of his mouth were, "George." And I'll tell you what, I don't ever think, other than right now, I don't think I've ever seen Mary-Lynn so happy to not be called upon.
It was like, it's not me, it's you. Anyway, that was, actually, I was more tickled that you got to actually experience...
Sure.
The air check.
Yes.
You got the air check treatment. That means that you're good. That means that you're worthy.
Okay.
So that was fun.
That's how I'll take it.
Anyway, Kipper is an amazing coach. He's been our coach for years and years. I don't know what we'd do without him. He understands consumer trends, content creation, online business strategy. He keeps us focused and true to our
Which
brand.
is hard to do.
Yeah. And so it keeps us on track with our short and long-term planning. We're so thankful for him. We are so thankful for him. And we feel very lucky that our paths crossed. The fourth reason we feel lucky in our celebration of 13 years is that we've had tremendous clients over the years who've inspired us, and we just have absolutely enjoyed working with.
It's always just fantastic to just kind of see the metamorphosis in a client, and to just see, them moving from a lack of focus into that zone where they can really, truly make strides ahead.
It's so funny what you just said, because we're talking about our coach and our need for him to keep us focused.
Yeah.
When you're close to the subject matter, it's really hard because you've got all these ideas. And so just as much as we need a coach, we're able to help other people keep their focus.
Yep.
So that's one of the things that we absolutely love to do, and just to see that light bulb turn on, because the people that we work with are very organized. They have tons of ideas. They are motivated, and they just need a little bit of help on focusing on that next step to help with their business growth.
Yep.
It's a blast. It's super rewarding. Number 5, we feel lucky that we started in the digital space somewhat early.
Yeah, because, podcasts were just coming around, and they were pretty hot. Now, within a year, podcasts were considered dead, and we see that didn't exactly come to shape, right?
Right.
So now podcasts are back better than ever. But yeah, we were very early. Now, Mary-Lynn, there was no Facebook, for example, when we started.
No.
Twitter was like a year old, right?
Right. Maybe Facebook was just for colleges at the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't mainstream.
Right.
Twitter was the one that was mainstream. And yeah, it was new. And blogging was really popular when we got on board. Podcasting was starting to really catch on.
Mm-hmm. But it was video.
Huh?
Everybody was saying video podcasts back then. It had to be video.
Right.
And we chose to be audio.
Yes, we chose to stick with audio. And even though for many years, several years, we would tell people that we have a podcast, and they would look at us like, what is that? Now everybody has podcasts.
Yes. And a question that I think we get quite a bit is, like, people say, well, do you have to get started early? Isn't that really good? And it can be good. But, first of all, you have to understand, there weren't really any models on how to monetize all this stuff. There were thoughts, but there weren't really fully models about how to do it. But the other thing I'd say is just always think about this. Tomorrow's going to be later than today. So, don't sit here and worry about whether you missed a big opportunity. Just think about, okay, what's going on today? And then how's that affect my tomorrow? And that's the key thing, because really a sense of urgency is one of the greatest assets you can have in any business or any endeavor, I think, in your career. So just keep that in mind, that tomorrow's going to be later than today. What can I do today?
All right. Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome.
Number 6, we feel lucky that we're going on 2 million downloads of the Big Success Show.
2 million.
That's a lot.
Yes.
We posted our very first podcast on November 11th, 2007, and it was entitled Define Success for Your Peace of Mind. And George, you wanted to launch Big Success with this concept. Yeah,
because, you think about it, and I say this quite a bit these days, but according to the dictionary definition of success, you can be a bank robber and be a success.
The definition is accomplishing something that you've set out to do.
That really irks me, because it doesn't add any value to society. I think part of the reason we're here is to add value in the lives of others.
Well,
and in doing so, you add value in your own life.
And that's what big success is. That's
exactly. Yes. But we had this definition. We shared this definition by John Wooden, the greatest basketball coach of all time. The only person who I've ever asked for an autograph in my entire life, and I got it after 9 attempts. But he said success is peace of mind, which is the direct result of the self-satisfaction in knowing that you did your best to become the best that you're capable of becoming. It's peace of mind. And I always tell my students who are entrepreneurial finance students, if you put money first, it don't work. It's all about finding peace. And money can be part of that equation, but it's certainly not all that equation. And if you let it drive you, it doesn't work for most people. So the definition of success, what we like about this, is that it focuses on the long-term you, that long-term person that you want to be.
Oh, yeah. That's big.
That's big with 2 G's.
That's big. The 7th reason we feel lucky is for the incredible guests that we've interviewed on our podcast. And there's a huge long list, but we thought we would just share a few of the ones that stood out. Bob Proctor.
Yes. I have to say, Mary-Lynn, I remember sitting in that interview talking with him about the ABCs of Success, one of his latest book at that time. And I just remember thinking, I don't know that I've ever been around such a deep well of wisdom. And most famous, I think, for the attraction, or the secret, but wow, that guy really knows this stuff.
Right.
And we were so honored.
And just how your subliminal mind affects the outcomes that happen. And so, yeah, Bob was incredible. He is one of the pioneers of personal development. And, we link to all of these interviews. If you happen to miss one of these and they intrigue you, just check your show notes. Another person that was a great guest was Seth Godin, international best-selling author. Who doesn't know Seth? Seth and his great glasses and his great big mind and all of the things that he thinks.
Yeah, and he wrote the book Tribes a while back, and we talked to him about that. I still remember Mary-Lynn. He said that people weren't going to like it because he didn't give them spelled out checklists, and so he made the reader think for themselves. And you said, "What's wrong with it?" And he just chuckled. I remember we got a big old laugh out of Seth.
Yeah.
Quick little side note on him. I was really having problems with my allergies, and he was running late that day that we recorded the show, and he apologized profusely. I mean, he could not have been more kind about apologizing. Mm-hmm. And we told him, it's like, actually, Seth, it turned out to be a blessing for us because my sinuses were going crazy. And he told me how to solve that, which was get some kind of red pepper. There's like a red pepper inhalant that you can use that clears out your sinuses. I'd never heard that before. So it's like, okay, cool. I'm getting allergy advice from Seth Godin.
Achoo! That's awesome. I'm sorry. All right. Another great interview, Jean Chatzky, the financial expert for NBC's Today. She gave us tips on how to increase our financial situations by improving the way that we think about money. And, George, we were on a kick for a while talking about how abundance is really your mindset. It's not about what you have. It's about your mindset. And once you get in that right mindset, now you're going to take the right actions.
Yeah. And, Mary-Lynn, I kind of look at it this way. We think about God. You think about, whatever you want to think about, if you want the universe or whatever you want to say. But I mean, I look at it this way. If we can't be thankful for what we have, how do we expect anything more?
How do we expect more blessings, right?
If you can't manage what you have, how can you be expected to manage more? I mean, I just think that attitude goes a long ways towards helping us with many things.
Bob Berg was another guest we've had on the show multiple times. He's the author on selling, and his books, The Go-Giver and Go-Giver Sell More, are really interesting in the sense that Bob's concept, if you truly are selling, then you're giving, is what he says.
That's the root word.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because what you're doing is you're selling something that can help people.
Yeah.
So you're giving people something. There's just always this negative connotation with selling. And the problem with that is that we're all selling something at some point in our lives, even if you're not in business, right?
Yep. And you're absolutely right. Selling is giving. We think the modern society thinks it's taking, and we've got it 180 degrees wrong.
Steve Farber is the authority on leadership, and he is a renowned keynote speaker and author, and he has been on our show multiple times telling us that there is love in business.
And Mary-Lynn, I still remember a question you asked him was, how can there be love in business? I mean, that just sounds kind of,
Right, there's no crying in baseball.
Right?
There's no love in business.
Yes, and I remember Steve's answer, he directly came right back at you in a phenomenal way, and it simply said, if we don't love our customers, how can they expect them to love us?
Yeah. What
a great way of summarizing business.
Yeah. Jill Schlesinger, CBS business analyst and radio show host. What a great guest. She is one of the friendliest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
And she told us why smart people make dumb money moves.
I could tell she was looking at me the whole time she was talking about dumb things. So,
but she was wonderful. And then David Bach, 9-time New York Times bestselling author. What just an amazing, gracious man. I felt like we'd been best friends for years just talking with him. And George, during our interview, you even gave David Bach chills.
Yeah, he said the hair on his neck was standing up, right? Yeah. Because I asked him, it seems like we put so much emphasis on retirement and saving for retirement, and we don't put enough emphasis on living today. Enjoying life a little bit today. And he said absolutely that's where he feels like the personal finance world has kind of actually done a disservice to people, is that there's perhaps too much focus on way out there and not enough focus on the here and now.
So, like I said, we could keep going. There's so many wonderful people, but that's just a small sampling, and we will continue to bring wonderful experts to Big Success to help us all with the personal, professional, and financial aspects of our lives. Number 8, we feel lucky for the recognition that we've received over the years. UpJourney is a popular self-improvement website, and they listed us as a personal development expert to follow.
Yeah, and then the Rule Breaker Award. This is a national award for entrepreneurs. And now, Mary-Lynn, I have to say, I have been in the entrepreneurial field my entire adult life. I have taught entrepreneurship for several decades, couple decades. I have still not received a national award in entrepreneurship. You've been in the business now for, at that time, like 11 years, and you've won a national entrepreneurship award. What's up with this?
Well, thank you. And actually, it's very fitting because this award is about entrepreneurs who take the road less traveled and break all the rules in their pursuit of business success. And I have definitely been a rule breaker, and I always will be. Mm-hmm. So that was fun. That was a wonderful thing. And then another important recognition, one that we hold dear to our hearts, is that we were Entrepreneurial Excellence Paul Magelli Advocacy Award finalists in 2017.
Yeah, and Paul Magelli was one of my mentors. He's one of the biggest thinkers I've ever met. He worked in institutions like the University of Illinois, where I teach. And, it was just amazing to watch him. Like, whenever I'd pop into his office just to say hey or something, he was always on the phone with somebody, always in the middle of a conversation, always negotiating with somebody, and he was always moving things forward. And just a big visionary I enjoyed it. Every time I left his office, I felt inspired, even if the subject had nothing to do with me, or all I did was listen into a few minutes of a phone call or something.
If Paul saw that there was a problem, or saw that something could help move something along, or could make things better, he would do it.
Yeah.
He would, let's get it done.
That's right.
He embodied that entrepreneurial spirit and the know-how to get things done.
Yeah, phenomenal man. Unfortunately, he too has passed, but
his legacy lives on.
That's right. And so it was such an honor to be nominated in that category. Right. I think just because of the feelings we have for Paul.
And because that award in particular is for those who actively engage, encourage, coach, and mentor entrepreneurs in the community and provide extensive support to help them achieve success. And the fact that we were recognized as doing that in our own community means so much, because that's what we're doing this for.
Yes, it does.
Number 9, we feel lucky for all the publications that we've been featured in. Inc magazine, Inc.com. George is among the experts who provided insights on the article 10 Questions to Ask Before Buying a Business. U.S. News and World Report also featured the professor, who shares the key to understanding opportunity costs. What is that, George?
Well, it just simply means that the value of an alternative option that you've been given after you make a choice. So in other words, I've got choice A and choice B. I choose choice A. What would I have gotten out of choice B? That's my opportunity cost. That's what I'm giving up. And then, Mary-Lynn, you've also been busy with publications. So you were featured in Business News Daily, offering tips on the best way to start a podcast for your business. So, Little Miss Radio, now you're Little Miss Podcast.
Right, exactly. And it is a fun way to be able to get the word out about what you do. And then Quicken Loans blog. And once again, the professor is featured in sharing about the power of setting micro goals to achieve bigger, long-term goals. So that's just a few of the publications that we've been featured in. Watch for more in the coming years. Number 10, we feel lucky for our vendors and suppliers.
Yeah, not when we have to pay them. But no, seriously, we're
happy to pay them.
Yes, we are. They make life so much better, and they help us be more productive.
Digital Access Pass is one of our suppliers. We house our premium content using that software. And that company is owned by another entrepreneur couple, which makes us love using that company even more.
Absolutely right.
Aweber is another tool that we use to grow our community through our newsletter. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I really love about Aweber is their customer support and also the dedication of their team to help businesses thrive. So they're just a phenomenal company. You can see all the tools that we use on our store page of our website. The 11th reason we feel lucky on this 13th anniversary of Big Success is for some of the creative projects that we've gotten to do. During that same podcast conference where we met Chris Brogan, we also met a fellow named Paolo Tosolini, who at the time worked at Microsoft. And Paolo really loved the work that we were doing on Big Success and later asked us to collaborate on some projects for Microsoft. And one of them was social media massage.
Yeah, so Microsoft has an internal platform where employees can host a podcast and share best practices. Our mission was to create a message that encouraged people to participate.
Right. And so the fun twist with this project was that during lunchtime, their employees would be offered 5-minute massages. And so then they would listen to our promo podcast that was produced to both relax them and inform them about how they can participate in this platform while they were getting their massage.
And actually this program got picked up by Word of Mouth magazine as a great way to get a message out.
Right.
Which is pretty
so
cool.
that was so much fun. And listening to George say, relax. Take a deep breath. That was just so much fun. And again, you just never know where a podcast is going to take you, right?
That's right.
All right. The 12th reason that we feel lucky is that we have endured some tough times and still managed to survive.
Yeah, so we went through early in our business life. We ran right into the Great Recession, and I mean that really had significant ramifications for our business.
Right.
And now, of course, we're in the middle of the pandemic, and I don't know what else to call it. I don't know. I think that's probably what we'll end up calling it, the Great Pandemic or something.
Yeah.
But the point is, we've endured both so far. And entrepreneurs, the secret to entrepreneurs is it's all about dying another day.
Yeah.
And so we just live day by day by day, and we push as hard as we can, and we keep going. And that's all any business person can do.
Right. All right. So now here we are to lucky number 13, the 13th reason we feel lucky. And we feel lucky because our faith continues to get stronger.
Yeah, some time ago, Mary-Lynn, I think we talked about this, that I saw an article, and it was saying how entrepreneurs tend to be more faithful kind of people, have more faith than most people. They're stronger belief in God. Mm-hmm. And we've certainly found that to be the case in our own lives, that we have another partner, and it is a supreme being. And, we're not telling you have to believe the same thing we do. You can be wrong if you want.
Very funny.
Thank you. I mean, we're not a judgment kind of people. We're
just telling you what
we feel.
What matters to us.
Yes. And so we have just found that by building on a foundation of godly principles, we are better human beings and we're better business people.
So that's 13 reasons why we feel lucky in 13 years of big success. But there actually is a bonus.
Plus one.
There's a plus one, and that's you. We are so thankful that you subscribe to our podcast, that you listen to our podcast, that you put up with how long this particular podcast episode is. But we are so grateful for you, and we are going to work really hard to take it to the next level so that we can all grow together and reach big success.
There you go. That's what it's all about. You keep pushing, and we'll keep pushing for big success.
Until next time,
here's to your big success.
Find Big Success at BIGGSuccess.com.